I always say, if it comes up, you react to something in your life, I really don't mind. It's how long you react to it. Now, the chemicals in your brain and body when you have an emotional reaction only last from 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Absolutely. The greatest thing we could ever do when we wake up in the morning and before we get up and slip into the same shoes and then, go into the bathroom and use the toilet and then look at ourselves in the mirror to remember who we are, then do the same showering routine and then drink coffee out of our favorite mug and drive to work the same way and see the same people, is actually to ask some really important questions. First question is, man, there's an intelligence within me that's giving me life. I can't see it, but it's making 10 million cells every second. It's organizing 100,000 chemical reactions in one cell in 1 second. This is a big mind. It's got a will that's bigger than my will, a mind that's bigger than my mind, a love for life that's bigger than my love for life. Maybe I can begin to interact with it and emulate it like a creator, because it's creating all of this. This intelligence that's within me is also all around me. It's personal and universal. So to begin to develop a relationship with this unseen essence means that you have to believe in the invisible, to believe in that quantum field. Now, if you asked yourself, what is the greatest expression or ideal of myself that I could be today? What would greatness do today? And you began to remind yourself of the thoughts you no longer wanted to think. You began to become conscious of those behaviors that cause you to create the same results in your life. And you begin to look at those emotions that literally keep you connected to the past, because emotions are records of the past. And you became so conscious of those unconscious states that you would never let them slip by your awareness in your waking day. As you begin to observe those states of mind and body, you're literally cooling off the circuits in your brain that are connected to the old self. And if nerve cells that no longer fire together, no longer wire together, you are beginning to biologically weaken those old programs that are connected to the old you. Then if you said, how would greatness think today? How would they act? How would they love? How would they live? And you began to prime your brain and body neurologically and chemically. And you said, I'm not going to get up until I feel like I am this person. And you get up as that new self every day. And you can maintain that modified state of mind and body. Get ready, because something different is going to show up in your life. That's the law. You are no longer living in the past now. Now you're actually living in the future, because your brain and body are no longer a record of the past, but now a map to a new future. So practicing this every day means then that we have to convince the body emotionally that it's already done. And if the body's the unconscious mind, it doesn't know the difference between an experience in your life that creates an emotion or an emotion you fabricate by thought alone. To the body, it's the same. So we can then teach the body to live in a state of love, in a state of gratitude, in a state of inspiration or genius. And then maintaining that state the entire day says that I'm open to possibility, and I'm no longer looking at my reality through the lens of the past.
And then all of a sudden, poof, there is a fear that comes out of nowhere that is, I thought I dealt with it.
Exactly.
It's incredible like that.
But here's the point. It's okay to have a fear pop out of nowhere. It happens all the time for people. We emotionally react to everything in our life, but what's happening now is what we've created from the past. So when the fear or the anger or the sadness or the disgust or the judgment comes up, I always say, if it comes up, you react to something in your life, I really don't mind. It's how long you react to it. Now, the chemicals in your brain and body when you have an emotional reaction only last from 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Anything past that pretty much is you're faking it. You're keeping the addiction going so that you can reaffirm who you think you are based on that addiction. So shortening the refractory period of your emotional reactions, that is greatness. Because you could say then, today I will be the greatest ideal of myself, and if my past begins to leak in, When the moment I notice it, I'm going to change the channel and move back to that state. Now, noticing it, noticing that fear, and no longer giving into it, but noticing it and then shortening your reaction to it and coming back to the same self, sooner or later there's no room for fear. Most people have a reaction of fear or anger or aggression or judgment or whatever, and then they spend hours in that state, and those emotions are driving those thoughts, they're oiling those programs, and the person now returns back to the same self. So the key is just to learn how to shorten reaction to them so that it doesn't become part of your identity.
And is that the same process for diseases, that we're people that are faced with terminal diseases, and is it really possible to override, change, free ourselves up from those diseases the same way of the whole habits?
You know, when I wrote my first book, you know, the reason I wrote it is because I studied spontaneous remissions from disease. How did people get better just by changing their mind? And when I was able to break it down into the major components, that, you know, the commonalities, there were 4 primary common things, then the next question for me was, now that I understand what they were doing to produce these changes in their cancer, their diabetes, or their MS, or their lupus, can we reproduce it? Can we teach people how to do this and do the same thing that they were doing using a certain understanding in the neurological and biological model? And the answer is absolutely yes. In the last 2 years, we have, in the workshops that we've done, we've seen people overcome all kinds of health conditions because they literally became a new personality. And if you're a new personality, you're a different person. And if you're a different person, the disease existed in the old person, not in the new person. So if a person lives by a state of resentment, and they have had experiences in their life that create that emotion, and they don't know how to shorten the refractory period, and it lasts for weeks or months, and it turns into a mood and into a temperament and becomes part of their personality over years. If they keep living by that emotion that drives their thoughts, over time it'll become so automatic and familiar to them that they won't even know that they're in a state of resentment. But once they begin to look at that state, we could say that it was that emotion that kept signaling the same gene in the same way that created their disease. In other words, the body, as the unconscious mind, was believing that it was in the same experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 20 years. And the redundancy of that same emotional signal keeps pushing the same genetic button. And now the person's headed for their genetic destiny. When the person begins to biologically break down that part of their personality, and they begin to unwire and unfire the thoughts that are connected to that state of resentment, the behaviors, things they say that's driven by that emotion, and other emotions that are connected to it, and they create a new person with a new emotional signature, then we could say then the moment they're in that new state of being, they're a new personality, and disease can't exist in that body any longer because it was connected to the old body. So we're able to reproduce it now in the workshops we're doing, and a lot of that's in the book, but it gives people permission, that's the key, to try it out. And when I say permission, it's important for us to understand that means that you have to then put your energy behind it, you have to make an effort, and you have to step outside of the conventional model. And I'm happy to say that it's possible.
Forever.
Sure.